I mean, who could forget the iconic opening sequence of X-Men, the animated series? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. I feel like I have this weird fan gene where I tend to really fangirl over things that interest me. Usually it's popular franchises like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Those are the only series that I can think of right now. Anyway, of all the media franchises that rose to popularity in recent times, it was only Marvel stuff that I somehow did not get myself into. Till today, I am not subscribed to or updated on any Marvel related content or news because it's just it's just not for me. Well, except for the Spider-Verse animated series, because number one, it's animated, and number two, it was the art style that really piqued my interest. I don't know, it's just visually appealing. It was a feast for my eyes. That alone made me want to check it out. And while the art style piqued my interest, it was the storyline that made me stay. So I was pleasantly surprised when I saw people watching X-Men 97 on my FYP on TikTok. Hi there, my name is Jel, and you're watching the Gel Next Door. This is my channel where I dump my thoughts on pretty much anything that I consume. So I remember seeing this girl's TikTok. She was reacting to the last scene of episode 5, which is called Remember It of X-Men 97, which apparently, after finishing season 1, is a pivotal moment in the series that I will definitely not spoil here. In the TikTok video that I saw, I heard the last line of that episode thinking, that sounds like Rogue. I reached that conclusion because I remember hearing the line and thinking, holy shit, that is so poetic. Because number one, it reveals so much about her and her ability as a mutant. And it's poetic because at the same time, through that one short line, she was also revealing her vulnerability as a human. If you've already seen the series and you've like reached that point in the series, if you know, you know. That very short line alone was enough to pique my interest. Why did she say that? And more importantly, who was she talking to? And that, my friends, was enough for me to look up X-Men 97. And then I remember thinking, I was like, there's a fresh attempt at X-Men. I know I said I'm not a Marvel fan, but I grew up loving the X-Men. I'm not a big fan, like, I don't geek about it, but every time there's a movie or a series about X-Men, I would for sure confirm watch it. I was a Cartoon Network girly, so when the channel aired X-Men Evolution, I watched it and I loved it. I know the general X-Men fandom is not like happy about the live action movies that was rolled out in the early 2000s, but I loved it. I followed the series. Like, never mind that I never understood the timelines, but I loved it. And although it's a bit of a blur now, I do remember watching episodes of X-Men the animated series on Saturday mornings. I mean, who could forget the iconic opening sequence of X-Men the animated series? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. If you grew up in the Philippines in the 90s, I need you to confirm that X-Men the animated series aired on Studio 23. So, coming back to looking up X-Men 97, the moment I saw the OG X-Men, like when I say the OG, I mean Wolverine in that yellow suit with a blue accent, I knew, I knew that I had to watch it. I mean, sure, I don't know the story anymore. Seriously, I forgot the plot of X-Men since watching the last live action film, and it felt like eons ago. But I will eat up anything that will feed my nostalgia. So apparently, X-Men 97 is the continuation of the X-Men the animated series that aired in 1992 until 1997, hence the title X-Men 87. So this new series starts off with the X-Men starting a fresh chapter in their lives after the death of their leader, Professor Charles Xavier. FYI, I realized I didn't say this on the get-go. The X-Men is a band of mutants or humans with superpowers, super abilities that was formed and trained by Professor Charles Xavier. Of course, he is also a mutant and he's like a powerful one right at the beginning. Immediately, you are thrown into the middle of the action, which honestly to me was a good thing because although I do not remember the story or like the overarching plot and theme of X-Men, I still vaguely remember like their origins at least. So getting into this, I feel like I didn't need to see that anymore, or rather, this is a better way of starting the series because like it picks off apparently from the last episode of the series before, I mean, the OG series before it was stopped. Like I was saying, immediately you are thrown into the middle of the action. And to me, this is a good thing because it just made me question a lot of stuff. What happened to Professor X? Number one. How did he die? Why did he die? What will happen to the X Men now? Who is going to lead them? More importantly, what is the story of this new world? I just wanted to see what what happens. Like, I mean, the point is the bait was there. It was juicy and I was hooked. I'm not here to provide an analysis of the show, of the episodes, because there are far more better channels who explain it comprehensively. Like they know their stuff, they know the comics, they know the evolution of the franchise. So, yeah, this is not an analysis. This is just me wanting to yap about how much I love X Men 97. The concept of humans having superpowers was what initially drew me into the franchise. Of course, as a kid, you know, potentially being telekinetic like Jean Grey was fascinating. And looking back now, I feel like the X-Men was my pre-game into Harry Potter. Honestly, Jean Grey was my bias, but since my older sister, I have an older sister, she also loves Jean Grey. Then that means I cannot take Jean Grey as my favorite character. Like those with siblings know, those with older siblings know the struggle. Like if the older sibling likes someone from like a TV show, you cannot take that character. Like there's no way that that's hers. So yeah, that's what happened to me. I like Jean Grey because she's pretty cool. Her power is pretty cool, and I feel like her power would be so useful to my everyday life. But then my sister already likes her, so that means I cannot like her. And then Jean Grey also had this boyfriend who is the token hot guy of the series. Like, and so I looked at the roster and I eventually picked Rogue as my favorite, mainly because she looks super cool. I mean, have you seen the white streaks on her hair? And then also, I have sweaty palms. And so I kind of saw myself in her because she basically cannot touch people without like hurting them, right? And that kind of, I mean, I kind of saw my reflection in that in a way that I don't want to touch people because it's embarrassing because I have like sweaty palms. Enough of my childhood stories. Anyway, getting back into the franchise, after watching season one of X Men 97, I slowly realized that what I really like most about the show, or rather the X-Men, is not the superpower concept, like not humans getting superpower concept. But I mean it's cool, but it's more about the found family trope. If you think about it, they they, meaning the X-Men, seem to be misfits in a world with so-called regular humans. But together they make up this awesome group of often misunderstood people who just want to make the world a better place to live in. And that's what I love about X-Men 97 because in the series, at least in season 1, we watch the X-Men grapple with interacting with people who are not like them. We watch them integrate themselves into a society that views them as different beings. See, to me, Professor X has always been the most righteous character in the series because no matter how people view the X-Men, he always believes that mutants like him, mutants like his X-Men, and the regular folks can coexist in the world together peacefully. But with him gone, and then him actually doubled down on his loss by leaving his X-Men, his legacy in the hands of Magneto, who is his rival, who has opposing beliefs as him. Not only does this rattle the X-Men, it also rattles the rest of humanity because Magneto is not exactly a nice guy, and in particular, he has not been kind to the world. And that is pretty much the conflict that drives the entire show. And then it becomes people retaliating, people retaliating people. They're all people. They're just in different packages and different moral compasses. And we see it unfold throughout the season. I love it because it's so thought provoking. I don't know how to say this without spoiling anything, but the show just makes you stop and think. How did the world, the people living in it, come to this state of divide and conflict and so much hurt? Which, honestly, if you ask me, is pretty much a reflection of what the world, the state of the world we live in is like. The show makes you sit down and it leads you to stop and think and take a look at your own moral compass. On world building, I do feel like the world building in X-Men 97 is way stronger than what I remember from the last film that I saw. For instance, I do not remember Genosha at all. I don't remember it from the live action films or from X-Men Evolution. Like I said, I don't remember the OG animated series as well. So discovering Genosha, discovering that part of the world is pretty fascinating and pretty interesting to me. And with season 1 being a conflict driven season, I feel like in every episode, the X-Men just couldn't catch a break. So because of that, we peel so many layers of the characters in such a short span of time. But it doesn't feel rushed. That's what I like about it. It doesn't feel rushed. And so we get like character development upon character development upon character development. Just 10 episodes. And it's like under an hour. It's so good. And I freaking love it because I feel like it's my first time truly knowing who the X-Men are. I really, really, really love it. And I cannot wait for the next season to arrive because this season, the one that just wrapped up, it ended in a major cliffhanger. And I cannot. I'm gonna wait for like 1 year. I mean, it's 1 year, right? It should be just 1 year. While waiting, should I go watch the OG animated series?